The Montana sunrise painted the sky in hues of amber as James Harrington stepped onto the weathered porch of his ranch house. At 54, the lines on his face told stories of both joy and profound loss. His right hand instinctively traced the burn scars that covered the left side of his neck, a permanent reminder of the night he lost everything. The Bridger Creek Ranch had been in the Harrington family for 3 generations, but for the past 8 years, James had worked its 200 acres alone. The rural property outside of Bozeman had once echoed with the laughter of his wife, Sarah, and their daughter, Emma. Now, only the occasional whinny of horses broke the silence. The ranch hands who came by during calving season knew better than to mention the fire that claimed his family while he was away at a livestock auction. They respected his pain, offering quiet nods instead of prying questions. At Wilson's General Store, James moved efficiently through the aisles, filling his cart with the same items he bought every week. Martha Wilson smiled warmly at him from behind the register. "Beautiful day, isn't it, James?" she offered. "Sure is," he replied with a polite but distant smile that didn't reach his eyes. Sheriff Mike Daniels entered, his expression serious. "James, glad I caught you. Got a situation I could use your help with. Child Protective Services called about a foster placement emergency. 9-year-old girl needs temporary housing while they sort some things out. Your name's still on their emergency housing list from years back." James felt his chest tighten. "Mike, I haven't fostered since before the fire. I'm not equipped for that anymore. It's just for a few days, James. The girl's case is complicated. She's been through some trauma. Burns like yours." The sheriff's voice lowered. "No one else in the county has the experience you do with those kind of injuries." James stood frozen, the weight of his grocery bags suddenly unbearable. "When?" was all he managed to ask. "Tomorrow morning. Her social worker will bring her by around 10 that night." As a spring storm rolled over the mountains, James found himself in Emma's untouched bedroom, dust covers still protecting the furniture. For the first time in years, he opened the windows, letting the fresh mountain air sweep away the stillness. "I don't know if I can do this, Sarah," he whispered to the empty room, his voice breaking. Morning came with cleared skies and a nervous energy that James couldn't shake. At precisely 10:07 a.m., a silver sedan with Montana state government plates crawled up the long driveway. A woman in her 40s emerged from the driver's side. She opened the rear door and waited patiently. For several long moments, nothing happened. Then, slowly, a small figure slid out of the car. The girl was thin, wearing jeans and a long-sleeved blue hoodie despite the warm spring day. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, revealing a young face that would have been cherubic if not for the angry red scars that covered the right side of her face and disappeared beneath her collar. A mirror image of James's own injuries. "Mr. Harrington," the social worker called, extending her hand. "I'm Patricia Alvarez from Child Protective Services. Thank you for agreeing to this emergency placement. This is Lily Martinez." The girl kept her eyes fixed on the ground, her body language radiating tension. "It's just James," he finally said, then crouched down to Lily's eye level. "Hello, Lily. I have some horses that might like to meet you, if you're interested." Lily's eyes flickered up briefly before returning to the ground. She gave no other acknowledgement. Patricia smiled apologetically. "Lily hasn't been very talkative since the accident 6 months ago. Her previous foster placement didn't work out. The family wasn't prepared for the medical follow-ups and psychological support she needs." After reviewing paperwork and explaining Lily's medication schedule, Patricia prepared to leave. It should just be for a few days until we can find a more permanent placement. As the social worker's car disappeared down the driveway, James and Lily stood in awkward silence on the porch. "Are you hungry?" he asked finally. Lily shook her head. "Well, I need to check on a calf that was born yesterday. You can come along or stay here. Your choice." When he stepped off the porch, he heard the soft sound of footsteps following him. They walked in silence to the barn, where a newborn calf was nestled against its mother. "Born yesterday morning," James explained, keeping his voice low. "First time I've seen a calf with that pattern of spots. Unique, like a fingerprint." Lily stood at the edge of the stall, watching. James noticed how she kept her scarred side angled away from the animals. "They don't mind, you know," he said gently. "The scars. Animals just see who you are, not what happened to you." The girl's eyes darted to his face, then to his scarred hand, in a quick assessment. There was a flicker of something. Recognition, perhaps, before her gaze returned to the calf. That night, as James sat on the porch watching the stars emerge, he heard a soft creaking sound. Turning slightly, he saw Lily standing in the doorway, her small frame silhouetted against the light from inside. "There's a barn owl that lives in the old sycamore," he said, pointing to a tree at the edge of property. "If we're quiet, we might see her hunting." Hesitantly, Lily stepped onto the porch and sat on the far end of the bench. Together, they watched in silence as the owl swooped across the moonlit pasture. It wasn't much, this shared moment, but for James, it felt like the first real human connection he'd experienced in years. 3 days into Lily's stay, Patricia called to explain that finding a suitable placement was taking longer than expected. "We're looking at another 2 weeks minimum," she explained. "Her case is complicated by the ongoing medical needs, and, well, some families aren't prepared for a child with visible differences." James glanced through the kitchen window to where Lily sat on the porch steps. "She can stay," he said simply. "We're managing." The breakthrough came on the 4th day. James was demonstrating the scar tissue exercises his physical therapist had taught him years ago, movements designed to prevent contracture and maintain flexibility. "This one helps with the neck," he explained, demonstrating a gentle stretching motion. "Looks silly, but it works." To his surprise, Lily mimicked the movement, her small fingers tracing the scars on her neck just as it had done. "That's right," he encouraged. 15 times, morning and night." "It hurts," Lily whispered, the word so soft James almost missed them. He froze, stunned by the sound of her voice. "Yes," he agreed carefully. "It does hurt, but it hurts more later if you don't do it." Lily nodded, a gesture of understanding between two people marked by the same trauma. "The fire was my fault," she said suddenly. "I knocked over a candle during the power outage." James felt his heart constrict. "Lily, accident happened. Fires especially. My mom tried to save me. That's how she—" The girl's voice cracked, and she couldn't continue. James knelt before her. "Listen to me, Lily. The fire that took my wife and daughter started because of old wiring in our barn. I was away at an auction. For years, I blamed myself for not being there. But Sarah, my wife, she would have hated that. Your mother saved you because she loved you, not because she blamed you." Tears welled in Lily's eyes. "The family I stayed with before, they said I was too much work, that I scare their real kids." A surge of anger rose in James's chest. "Then they didn't deserve you," he said firmly. That evening, something shifted between them. Over dinner, Lily asked questions about the ranch, about James's childhood growing up in the same house they now sat in. Each question was tentative, as if testing whether her voice was truly welcome. The next morning, James found Lily at the kitchen table before dawn. "Can I help with chores today?" she asked. "Not just watch." He nodded, something warm unfurling in his chest. "I could use a good assistant." Together they fed the horses, Lily carefully measuring out grain under James's guidance. She was hesitant at first, especially around the more spirited animals. But her confidence grew with each successful interaction. "This one's Duchess," James explained as they approached a gentle dapple gray mare. "She's the oldest and the wisest of the bunch. Would you like to learn how to groom her?" Lily's eyes widened, a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "What if she doesn't like me?" "Duchess is an excellent judge of character," James replied, "and she has poor eyesight anyway. She cares more about how you treat her than how you look." As Duchess leaned contentedly into the grooming, a small smile, the first James had seen, tugged at the corner of Lily's mouth. That afternoon, they drove into town for supplies. James noticed how Lily hunched in the passenger seat as they approached civilization, tugging her hood up despite the warm day. "I used to do that too," he commented. "Hide away. Figure it was easier than dealing with the stairs." Lily nodded, relief evident in her expression at being understood without having to explain. Tell you what, James continued, in this store, Martha Wilson is going to ask nosy questions because that's what Martha does. But she makes the best homemade ice cream in 3 counties. Seems like a fair trade to me. A tiny giggle escaped Lily, a sound so unexpected and bright that James found himself chuckling in response. That night, as a spring storm rolled through the valley, James was awakened by a soft knock on his bedroom door. Opening it, he found Lily standing in the hallway, her eyes wide with fear. "The thunder," she whispered. "It sounds like the fire," James finished for her. "I know. It wakes me up too, sometimes." "My therapist says the flashbacks get better with time," she said. "Do they?" James considered the question carefully. "They change," he answered honestly. "They don't disappear completely. But you learn to make room for other things alongside them." Lily seemed to digest this information. "I like it here," she admitted. "It's quiet, and you don't make me talk about it all the time like the counselors do." The next week and a half settled into a rhythm that felt increasingly natural. James rearranged his schedule to accommodate Lily's doctor appointments in Bozeman, sitting patiently in waiting rooms and carefully following the burn specialist's instructions for her ongoing care. Patricia visited twice, clearly surprised by the progress. "She's speaking in full sentences," she remarked during her second visit, watching through the window as Lily carefully fed carrots to Duchess. "The psychiatrist will be pleased." "She's a strong kid," James replied. "Just needed some space to be herself, scars and all." The social worker studied him thoughtfully. "The 2-week extension is almost up. I need to know if you're interested in a longer-term arrangement. Lily's case is complex. Her mother died in the fire, and there's no father in the picture, no relatives coming forward." The question caught James off guard, though perhaps it shouldn't have. The idea of returning to his solitary existence after Lily left created an unexpected hollow feeling in his chest. "I need to think about it," he said finally, and talk to Lily. That evening, after Lily had gone to bed, James sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, his mind churning. A permanent placement would mean adjusting his entire life. School schedules, doctor appointments, deal with a child's emotional needs through adolescence and beyond. His thoughts were interrupted by a scream from down the hall. He rushed to Lily's room to find her sitting upright in bed, her face streaked with tears, her breathing rapid and shallow. "Nightmare," she gasped as he knelt beside her bed. "I know," he soothed. "I get them too. You're safe now, Lily. You're at the ranch." "I was back in the apartment," she whispered. "The smoke was everywhere. I couldn't find Mom." James gently took her hand, careful of the still healing scars. "When I have that dream, I focus on something real, something I can touch or smell or hear right now, not from the memory." Lily's fingers tightened around his. "Your hand is rough," she observed, her breathing gradually slowing. "From ranch work." "That's right," he encouraged. "What else is real right now?" "The quilt is soft, and I can hear an owl outside." As James turned to leave, Lily's voice stopped him. "Are they sending me away soon?" she asked, vulnerability evident in every word. James turned back, seeing the fear of rejection plain on her young face. In that moment, his decision crystallized with unexpected clarity. "Not if you want to stay," he replied gently. "What if I do something wrong? Or if the medical bills are too much?" The other family said, "Lily," James interrupted firmly, "this isn't about what you can do right or wrong. It's not about the bills. It's about finding where you belong. And if that's here, then we'll make it work." The next morning, James called Patricia and began the process of applying for long-term foster care certification, with the possibility of eventual adoption. The paperwork was daunting, the home inspections nerve-wracking, but with each step, the possibility of providing Lily with permanence became more real. 6 weeks after Lily's arrival, they received news that James's foster care application had been approved. The relief on Lily's face made every bureaucratic hurdle worthwhile. "Does this mean I can stay? For real?" she asked over dinner that night. "If that's what you want," James replied. "There's still more paperwork for anything permanent, but yes, you can stay." Lily was quiet for a moment, pushing food around her plate. Would it be okay if I called you Uncle James? Not the other word. I'm not ready for that. James felt a lump form in his throat. Uncle James sounds just fine to me. The following day brought an unexpected visitor. Dr. Eleanor Chun, a renowned burn specialist from Seattle, arrived unannounced at the ranch. Patricia Alvarez contacted me about Lily's case, she explained. I've been developing new techniques for pediatric burn reconstruction. Lily would be an excellent candidate for our program. James listened intently as Dr. Chun described a series of surgeries that could significantly improve Lily's mobility and reduce the appearance of her scars. The procedures would be covered by a research grant, she added, but would mean frequent trips to Seattle over the next year. That evening, James carefully explained the opportunity to Lily, making it clear that the decision was ultimately hers. It would mean a lot of hospital time, he cautioned, and some pain during recovery. Lily considered this with a seriousness beyond her years. Would you come with me? To Seattle? Every single time. James promised we'd face it together. 1 year later, the Bridger Creek Ranch bustled with an energy it hadn't known in nearly a decade. The kitchen, once a monument to solitary meals, now displayed a colorful growth chart marked with Lily's height measurements. The refrigerator door was adorned with school artwork and a calendar packed with appointments, school events, and therapy sessions. James stood on the porch, watching as Lily led Duchess in careful circles around the paddock. At 10 years old, she moved with a confidence that belied the challenges of the past year. 3 surgeries in Seattle had improved the flexibility in her right arm and reduced the tightness of the scars on her neck and face. The sound of tires on gravel announced Patricia's arrival for a quarterly check-in. She looked strong, Patricia observed, joining him on the porch. The physical therapy is working. James nodded. She never misses her exercises. More disciplined than most adults I know. The adoption paperwork is moving forward, Patricia said. The judge has reviewed your petition favorably. We're looking at a court date in about 2 months. On a crisp October morning, they drove to the county courthouse in Bozeman. Lily wore a navy blue dress with a white collar, her hair neatly braided to show her face. Scars and all, with quiet pride. James, in his only suit, fidgeted with his tie as they waited outside the courtroom. Nervous? Lily asked, noticing his restless hands. A little, he admitted. You? She shook her head. This is just making official what we already know. The hearing itself was brief but profound. Judge Eleanor Blackwood reviewed their case carefully and asked Lily several questions directly. And you understand that this adoption will be permanent? The judge asked. That James would legally be your father in every sense of the word? Yes, Your Honor, Lily answered clearly. He already is in all the ways that matter. With a final review of the paperwork, Judge Blackwood signed the decree. By the power vested in me by the state of Montana, I hereby declare that from this day forward, Lily Martinez shall be known as Lily Harrington, with all the rights and privileges of a natural-born child. Outside the courthouse, they were surprised to find a small gathering waiting for them. Martha and George Wilson, Sheriff Daniels and his wife, 2 of Lily's teachers, and several members of her burn survivors support group. Even James's sister had flown in from Oregon for the occasion. A small celebration followed at a local restaurant, complete with a cake decorated with the words "The Harrington Family" in blue frosting. On the drive home, Lily was unusually quiet, staring out the window at the familiar landscape. Everything okay? James asked, concerned by her silence. Just thinking, she replied, about names and what they mean. Oh, Martinez was my mom's name. She gave it to me because my dad wasn't around. And now I'm a Harrington. She turned to look at him directly. But I don't want to forget being a Martinez. James considered this carefully. You don't have to forget. Being a Harrington doesn't erase being a Martinez. It adds to who you are. Lily nodded, apparently satisfied with this answer. I was also thinking about what happens next. What do you mean? Well, we did all this work to become a family. But what do we do now that we are one? The question caught James off guard with its simple profundity. We live, he answered finally, one day at a time. We make mistakes. We learn from them. We build something good together. The next morning, James found Lily in the living room, carefully arranging framed photographs on the mantel. There was a new addition, a formal portrait taken after the adoption hearing, showing James and Lily standing side by side, both smiling with genuine joy. Beside it, she had placed a picture of Sarah and Emma that had been kept in a drawer for so many years. "Is this okay?" she asked when she noticed him watching. "It's perfect," he replied, his voice rough with emotion. 3 days before they were scheduled to leave for another treatment in Seattle, James arranged a surprise. Early in the morning, he woke Lily with unusual urgency. "Get dressed quickly," he instructed. "Jeans and boots. Something's happening that you need to see." Still half asleep, Lily scrambled into her clothes and followed him to the barn, where one of the pregnant Maras had gone into labor earlier than expected. Together, they sat on hay bales in the corner, watching the miracle of birth unfold before them. Lily's eyes were wide with wonder as the foal emerged, wet and wobbling, into the world. "She's beautiful," Lily breathed as the newborn filly struggled to stand on impossibly long legs. "She is," James agreed, "and she needs a name." Lily thought for a moment, watching as the mare nuzzled her foal with tender care. "Phoenix," she decided, "because she's a new beginning." The symbolism wasn't lost on James. From the ashes of separate tragedies, they had forged something neither could have imagined. A family built not on blood, but on shared understanding, shared pain, and ultimately, shared healing. That evening, they sat on the porch swing as the sun set over the Montana landscape. Phoenix and her mother grazed in the nearby paddock, while Duchess watched from the adjacent field. The ranch, once a place defined by loss and solitude, now hummed with a quiet vitality. "You know," James said, breaking the comfortable silence, "a wise person once told me that scars show where we've been, but they don't dictate where we're going." Lily smiled, recognizing her own words from months earlier. "Sounds like someone pretty smart." "The smartest," James agreed, his arm resting lightly across her shoulders, "taught me that family isn't always what you're born into. Sometimes it's what you build after the fire." As twilight deepened into night, stars appeared one by one in the vast Montana sky. They had found their place, not just on the ranch, but in the world and with each other. Two souls, scarred but stronger for it, no longer defined by what they had lost, but by what they had found, a home in each other.